Hi, I'm Julia from Brazil. Please like and subscribe. I live with my single mom in a small town full of rich people in big mansions. But we weren't one of them. Mom worked here as a maid. She would also make this amazing jam from some fruit trees in our backyard and sell it at the Sunday market. We didn't have a lot, but we had each other. Once when I was 5, she took me with her to one of the mansions where she worked. As I waited for her outside, 2 girls my age came out and started playing with the most beautiful dolls. I asked if I could join them, and we were having a really good time when suddenly a woman came out and started shouting, "What are you doing with this girl? You'll catch lice from her."
What? I don't have lice. You can check my head, see?
Ew, get away from me. You two, come inside right now. Wow, what a jerk. Growing up, I didn't have much to do with the rich kids, but in the 6th grade, Mom enrolled me in the fanciest school in town. I've been saving up for it, Julia. You're not gonna end up a maid like me. You'll be someone amazing one day. Well, for now, I was the school outcast in my old clothes and shoes, but I didn't care if the others ignored me. I was here to work hard and study my butt off. But there was one girl in my class who stood out more than I did, Andy. She was a total troublemaker who spent half her time in detention. One day in class, the teacher asked everyone what they'd like to do when they grew up. I said I'd like to be a doctor so I could help other people. But when Andy's turn came, she stood up and said,
"When I grow up, I want to have 100 kids so I can have 100 friends, and no one can say no to being my friend. They will love me and fear me."
That's a really silly answer, Andy.
Fine, I'll become a gangster then. If I can't be loved, I will be feared.
And with that, she jumped onto the table and started doing some weird karate moves as everyone started laughing. The teacher sent her off to the principal, and she just left grinning. A few weeks later, there was a festival in town, and Mom and I decided to set up a stall to sell her jams. Andy came over, and I asked her what she'd like to buy.
Oh, I never buy anything. I either steal it or take it for free.
And she just stuck her hand in a bottle and started eating it with her fingers. I pounced on her, and we broke into a fight. But Mom pulled us apart right away and started apologizing to her. She even sent her off with free jam.
Mom, why did you say sorry when it wasn't my fault?
Julia, we are the poorest here. We can't afford to pick fights with these people. Promise me that you won't fight her again. I reluctantly promised, although now I wished I'd kicked Andy's butt harder while I had the chance. A few days later, I was on my way to the market to buy some garden supplies when a couple of senior girls from the school blocked my way. One of them pinned my arms behind me while the other took the money I had in my pocket. They pushed me to the ground and started running. As I chased them, someone whizzed past me on roller skates and flew right at them, knocking them both to the ground. It was Andy.
How dare you bully my victim? Only I can bully her. If I ever see you bothering her again, I will hunt you down and kill your entire family and your cats. No, wait, cats are too cute. Just your ugly family, then.
The girls got scared and ran away, and I was shocked that Andy had defended me. Thank you, Andy. I really hadn't expected this from you.
Shut up, loser, and don't tell anyone that I saved your sorry butt. I don't want my reputation ruined.
And with that, she skated away. But I knew now she wasn't as bad as she pretended to be. So the next day at school, I sat with her at lunch and pushed an extra sandwich towards her. She looked really surprised, then picked up the sandwich and started eating it.
"You're poor and your mama's ugly."
Oh my God, what is the matter with you?
Whoa, calm down. Friends joke with each other, right? Like, "Hey, you're ugly. That's why your dad left you." Someone said that to me once. That's what friends do.
No, they don't. Wait, did you just say we're friends?
I guess, since you're practically begging me. You can also be my minion and carry my stuff.
Let's just start off with being friends, okay? And since that day, we were. I was happy to finally have a friend in school, even if it was this weird Andy. One day after school, Andy asked me to come over to her mansion, but when we got there, I was kind of shocked. The place looked like it hadn't been cleaned in weeks. When we went to the kitchen for food, all the pots were empty, even the fridge. Where's all the food?
How would I know? My mom's hardly ever around, and my blind old grandma doesn't know anything. She doesn't care if I starve.
For the first time, I felt really sorry for Andy. It was obvious that she was completely neglected here. I told her to come to my place instead. And as we were leaving, we spotted her grandma walking down the hallway. Andy called out to her,
Hey, oldie, how long will you live? You've already been around for a century and you do nothing except finish all the food. It's time to go now.
Her grandma yelled angrily and charged at us with her walking stick, but we ran off giggling before she could catch us. And since that day, I started inviting Andy often to eat with us at my house. A few weeks later, I found out about an amazing scholarship opportunity for the biggest school in the city. It was in a different town, but Mom told me she'd be happy to move if I got in. So I applied for it and started studying day and night. On the day of the exam, I was on my way when I heard someone screaming in pain behind a bush, and I was shocked to see Andy on the ground.
Oh, Julia, I fell down from my bicycle and I'm in so much pain. I'm sure I've broken my ankle. Please help me and take me home. Oh, God, I can't believe I'm gonna die before my grandma.
Jeez, Andy, stop being so melodramatic. You'll be okay. I got you. Lean on me. I was getting so late for my exam, but I just couldn't leave Andy alone in pain. I took her home and then ran to the exam venue like crazy. But when I got there, I was told that I was late and couldn't sit for the exam. I was devastated, but Mom consoled me when I got home and said there would always be other chances. The next day, I thought I'd check up on Andy and Mom came along, but when we entered her gate, I was stunned to see her playing football. Her ankle seemed perfectly fine, and I was furious. You witch! Yesterday was all an act, wasn't it? You weren't hurt. You just wanted me to miss my exam. Why? How can anyone be such a big jerk, Andy?
Well, I can be. I've had years of training, and I was actually saving you from disappointment. You weren't going to get the scholarship anyway. Your dreams are too big for a maid's daughter.
That was it. I charged at her and knocked her down into the mud. As we screamed and fought, her mother came running out and went bonkers on me. How dare you touch my daughter? Oh, maybe if you were around more, you could have raised your daughter better. And she wouldn't have been such a horrible person. You two really deserve each other. Just then, Mom stepped in and practically went down on her knees, apologizing to Andy's mom. I stormed off furiously and Mom followed me. Andy, are you insane? Go back and say sorry to her. We can't afford to. Just stop it, Mom. Why are you so afraid of these rich people? You don't understand, Julia. She's on the school board and could have you kicked out. I don't care. I don't want to live in fear like you. I just wish you'd stop being a coward. I regretted those words instantly, but I felt too mad to apologize. I ran home, packed my stuff, and asked one of our neighbor's friends if I could stay with them for a while. Mom gave me some space, and anytime I saw that Andy in school, I just walked the other way. As I was walking home one day, I saw a poster outside a shop about an amateur food business contest. The winner would get prize money and a chance to work with a big company. I immediately thought of Mom, and I decided I had to make up with her and tell her about it. Mom, I'm really sorry for all those things I said. You're the strongest person I know, and you've always worked so hard to give me the best. I was angry at Andy, and I took it out on you. Please forgive me, and let me help you win this contest. I just know you can win. You're a strong girl, honey. I always believe in you. Mom hugged me tight, and we sent in her name right away. Each contestant was supposed to prepare 200 pieces of their own organic product. Mom and I worked like crazy making all that jam. And the night before the contest, we hired a van and loaded the bottles to take them to the venue. The next day, Mom had gone earlier to set up the stall. I waited for the driver, but he didn't show up. And when I went to the garage, the van wasn't there. I searched everywhere, shouting and crying, but I just couldn't find it. I rushed to the venue to tell Mom, and she was shocked. We just stood empty-handed in a corner while the other contestants set up their products. I was about to walk over to the judges to tell them what had happened when suddenly someone called out to me. I turned around to see Andy waving to me from our van.
Julia, I found it. Your jams are all in there.
Where was this? How did you get it? How did you even know?
You moron, this is not the time to talk about this. I'll explain later.
Mom and I went on stage and showed our products to the judges. They seemed really impressed. Sometime later, when the results were announced, we were shocked when Mom and I were declared the winners. We screamed and jumped for joy. I even pulled Andy into her hug, but seconds later, I pushed her away.
Wait a minute. Did you take the van, Andy, just to mess with me again? No, of course not. I came by to wish you luck when I saw you crying over your missed van. And well, I'm friends with half the thieves in this town. It wasn't hard for me to find it. I don't understand you, Andy. You went through all this trouble to save the day. Then why did you make me miss my exam? Because I knew that if you took that exam, you would have qualified and you would have left town. I don't want you to leave me. Just saying that makes me feel sick. And that's why I never wanted any friends. And I grinned and hugged her. She was such a weirdo. After winning the contest, Mom started working with a big food company. And soon enough, we were able to shift into a lovely new home. Once it was ready, Mom and I went over to Andy's place one day to invite her over for dinner. But when we got there, we saw her mom at the door with a suitcase. And Andy seemed to be upset. Mom, please, don't leave me with Grandma for a month. I hate being here alone with her. Why don't I come with you?
Don't act like a baby, Andy. You have everything you could need. Why are you always whining? I can't take you to meet my boyfriend's family. He doesn't even know I have a child.
Seeing the hurt on Andy's face, I couldn't take it anymore.
Hey, Andy. I just came here to tell you that I'm always here for you, and so is my mom. We're like your family. Do you want to come and live with us? And for the first time ever, I saw Andy cry. She shouted a big yes and hugged us. But suddenly, her mom turned livid. What do you mean, yes? You can't just go live with them. You're gonna leave me? Your mama?
Oh, Mom, stop acting like you care. You should be relieved. Don't worry, I'll check up on Grandma, and I'll come see you every 3 months. That should be enough for you, right? Ciao.
And with that, we left. When we reached home, I took Andy to her very own room. From now on, this is yours. We'll get all your stuff and set it up. And if you need anything, just ask. Later that night, when I was sleeping, I suddenly screamed when someone jumped on my bed. It was Andy.
Scoot over. I'm sleeping here.
But you've got your own bed.
You said I could have anything. Ow! You just kicked me. I hate you, Andy. I love you too, Julia.
I always thought I had a normal life, a good life. I had amazing friends and lived in an awesome house with a pool. I always thought that I lived with the greatest parents in the world, but apparently they were hiding some pretty dark secrets. By dark secrets, I wish I was talking about hidden siblings or credit card debts. In reality, my loving parents were actually my kidnappers, who hid me away from my real mom for years. It's a little more complicated than that, though. Before I start, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Otherwise, your favorite celebrity will be kidnapped. Maybe if someone subscribed to this channel a little sooner, I wouldn't be in this mess. I don't remember too much from when I was really young, except that we moved around a lot. My first memories started when I was around 3 or 4, and I just remember moving to a new house every few months. Our moves were always sudden, and sometimes I would have to leave right in the middle of something. I always thought it was perfectly normal, but in retrospect, it was all a little weird. I remember this one time in particular very vividly. I was going to a birthday party of my friend from the park. I can't even remember her name, but I can remember that it was the first birthday party I was ever attending. There was cake and balloons, and they even hired a face painter. I was in the middle of getting my face painted like a tiger when my parents just picked me up and told me we had to go. I was crying so much, but they just picked me up and left the party without so much as saying goodbye to the birthday girl. I cried so hard the paint got all over my clothes. Luckily, the painter only managed to get half of my face. My dad always said he had to move for work, and I didn't really question it further. Still, I missed out on a lot of things kids got to do. I didn't go to school for a really long time, and I never really made any friends in my childhood. I got so used to moving every few months that I didn't even unpack my room. I wasn't bitter about it, though. If my parents said we had to move for work, I just believed them. As I got older, these random moves got much less frequent. After we managed to stay in the same place for a whole year, my parents decided to buy a house. It was my dream come true. It was huge. 4-bedroom, a pool, a trampoline, and it was in a neighborhood full of kids my age. I was just about to start middle school when we got to the house, so it was the perfect time for me to really make some friends. Among all the friends I made, My best friend was Susan. Susan and I loved watching YouTube videos together. We loved watching true dramas like on My Story Animated, among others. We came across one video that seemed to change our lives forever. Our favorite channel had posted a video about a girl who went missing over 10 years ago. One day, a 2-year-old had been playing out in the garden when she just completely vanished. The story was so eerie and a little sad. A woman had just lost her husband in an accident. Her daughter was all she had, and then she vanished from her life without a trace when she was playing in her own backyard. Officers made this a cold case years ago, but the mom was still looking. She made billboards and traveled around, never giving up hope. The video transitioned to a slide showing a photo of the girl when she was taken, and a Photoshop picture of what she would look like now. Susan immediately paused the video. "Carly, that looks just like you." "Yeah, what are the odds?" I tried to laugh off. "Pretty slim," she said. She was right. That girl in that photo was undeniably me. We spent the next few hours looking up more about this story. It turned out she disappeared on my birthday, was the same age as me, and even had the same birthmark. When it was time to eat dinner with my parents, Susan and I were uncharacteristically quiet. "So, girls, what have you been up to all day?" my mom asked. "Nothing." She asked why we were acting so weird, and we just told her we were fine. I asked her if I could spend the night at Susan so we could go study. Susan and I continued to research the topic at our house and found only more incriminating evidence. We didn't know what we should do, so we asked Susan's older brother for some advice. At first, he thought we were being crazy. But when he read into it, he said we needed to do something. He was going to make a call to some of his cop friends and get more information on this missing girl. Months had passed, and I started forgetting all about the searches. Maybe it was because I was getting so invested in high school, but part of me just didn't want it to be true. Ignoring it was easier than anything else. Susan and I were eating lunch when a teacher came and approached me. She told me my parents were here to pick me up for a doctor's appointment. I didn't know I had a doctor's appointment that day. When I arrived at my parents' car, it was clear something was wrong. When I got into the car, I noticed there were blankets covering loads of stuff in the back seat. There were bags packed, and both of my parents were visibly distraught. "This is an awful lot of stuff to go to the doctor's," I said. My parents looked at me and said that my father's brother had gotten into a very bad accident, and they didn't want me to find out through the teacher. We were going to drive a few states away and take care of him for the time being. I didn't even know I had an uncle. There was obviously something fishy about this. They told me to text Susan to let her know I'd be staying with my uncle for a bit. After I did that, my father took my phone out of my hand. I asked why he was taking it, and he simply said that my uncle's pacemaker was disrupted by certain electrical signals. This meant I couldn't use Wi-Fi the entire time we stayed with his family. This didn't seem right to me, but when I tried to argue that hospitals had Wi-Fi, they just shut me down and told me to behave. Because they were so upset, I just let it go. I assumed we would only be gone for a couple of days, but days dragged on into weeks. Even if I had my phone on me, I doubt it would work. We were in the middle of nowhere. My uncle was virtually a zombie. He stayed in bed, surrounded by lots of beeping machines. My parents left for work religiously every day, and I was forced to wander this cabin alone most of the days. It seemed weird how my parents would just remove me from school and cut off my contact with everyone. When they were gone, I searched the house for my cell phone or a computer. I couldn't even find a landline. I was a prisoner here. One day, when I was exploring, I found a secret door under one of the carpets in my parents' bedroom. I found a secret room, and my heart sank when I saw what was inside. There was a landline, a PC, a whole bunch of cell phones, and a full box of old ID cards. That wasn't the weirdest part, though. All over the room, there were newspaper clippings about the very kidnapping that Susan and I had seen. The most recent date of the paper was only from a couple weeks ago. The title read, "New tips on a missing persons case brings us one step closer to bringing a missing girl home." The photo on the page was not photoshopped. It was me. Underneath me was a picture of my parents. Apparently, the couple that I had known as my mom and dad were actually my kidnappers. Before I got a chance to read more, I heard a bang. "You weren't supposed to see that," a voice said behind me. Before I could see who it was, everything went black. I don't know how long I was out for, but I woke up in my bedroom. I tried to leave, but I was locked inside. I cried and banged while my kidnappers showed up at the door. I screamed at them for lying to me my whole life. All the moving and mystery, it suddenly made sense. They didn't just steal me from my mother, they stole my childhood from me. They seemed genuinely hurt by my harsh words. They tried to tell me how they weren't able to have a baby. They were actually very close friends of my birth parents. Right before my birth father had his accident, he told them that he was afraid of my birth mother. He claimed that she had been acting very suspicious and he feared for his life. She was very mentally ill and he didn't think it was safe for me to stay with her. The day where he was supposedly going to give her divorce papers and take me away, he mysteriously had an accident. "We didn't have any other choice," the woman I thought was my mother said. "We promised your birth father that we would protect you at any costs." She was a very dangerous woman who had a lot of connections with law enforcement. Her whole family was made up of cops. They would never go against her. My parents feared a court case may push her to hurt me, so they kidnapped me and gave up their lives to try to give me the closest thing to a childhood I could have. They promised to be more open with me, but some things they kept from me to keep me safe. Now, it all made so much sense. I started to cry and promised to do as they said so we could keep our little family together. After a few months, I got used to our quiet life together. I cut my hair and used a new name, but I still tried to preserve parts of the old me. Even though my parents specifically asked me not to talk to Susan, I followed her very popular Instagram and YouTube channels. She had so many followers and her content was amazing. One day, I reached out to her. I used a pen name, but I couldn't just not talk to my best friend. To her, I was just a stranger, telling her how awesome her latest video was. At first, I thought Susan was going to ignore me, but eventually we started talking like the good old days. After a while, I got comfortable and let my guard down. I forgot that I wasn't supposed to be talking to her. In her latest post about a soda drinking challenge, I asked if she remembered the time I spilled grape soda all over my white dress in the cafeteria. Immediately, she wrote back, "OMG, I knew it was you! Where are you? It's been years! I can get the cops to you!" I panicked, realizing my mistake. I was so sad to lose Susan a second time, but I deleted all of my social media accounts. I didn't bring it up to my parents, fearing that I would lose my internet privileges again. That was not the smartest decision. A few days later, cops were banging on my cabin door. Who knew reminiscing about my cafeteria mishap would have a SWAT team at my door? Susan had called the authorities and they were able to track my IP address. My parents were put in handcuffs and my birth mother had rushed up and hugged me. I was hysterical. Everyone kept asking if I was hurt, but I was just upset they were dragging my parents away. My birth mother was hugging me and saying how long and hard she had looked for me. She turned to my parents and yelled at them about how horrible they were for robbing her of her motherhood so soon after her husband's death. Her anger soon turned into fear when they shouted back that her husband had never died. That's just what she wanted people to think. When the cops asked what they meant, they told them to check out the second bedroom in the back, my uncle's bedroom. My birth mother tried to run away, but the cops stopped her. Apparently, my sick uncle had actually been my father all along. After he asked my birth mother for divorce papers, she staged his death. But my kidnappers had actually saved him and had hired people to care for him for years. They decided on the last move that we should all move in to take care of him and that they would explain everything about my past when I was old enough. "Your father was a great man, our best friend," they said. Despite whether or not they did the right thing, my parents were arrested for kidnapping on the spot. Because of the discovery of my birth father, who was reported dead, my birth mother was brought in for questioning and later charged with attempted murder. When the cops asked if I had anywhere I could go, I decided to give Susan a call. She was so happy to see me. So much had changed, but we were able to go back to our friendship as though it was normal. We are currently working on an indie documentary about my life and are both in film school together. I still visit my parents in prison from time to time, and my birth father in the hospital, but he's not getting any better. I've seen my birth mother a couple of times since everything happened, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to have a relationship with her.